Check it out, guys. 800 watts of solar, and look at this. It just plugs in to a standard 120 volt outlet. But the best news is this is legal everywhere. This kit is from Craftstrom Solar. The way they make this legal for everyone to use is they have this very cool power meter that you install in your breaker panel, and it will prevent any backfeeding from happening back to the grid. This also works on dedicated and shared circuits. There's a lot to cover on this system, so if I were to do it all in one video, it's going to take too long. So it's going to be split up into a couple of different videos. But if you're watching this a few months from when it was released, there's going to be a link down in the description to a playlist with all of the videos about the Craftstrom Solar Kit, so you can easily and conveniently find all the information you need about this. This is the plug-and-play system you've all been waiting for. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because There's a Trick for That's the only place you're going to get this kind of content from. Let's get into this. Let's unbox this stuff from Craftstrom. I just want to make a comment on why shipping solar panels is so expensive. Can you see that this is palletized? It was delivered by a liftgate truck on a pallet jack. You can't just, wrap some cardboard around a solar panel and ship it across the country. So this might shed a little light onto why it takes so much effort and a little extra money to get something safely to you. So in this small box, I went ahead and took advantage of getting this Wi-Fi range extender. I may need this. Everyone's individual situation may vary. Now this is the secret sauce to making Craftstrom work anywhere, and this is their smart power meter that prevents your solar from backfeeding. And in addition with that, looks like we've got two external antennas as well that goes with this power meter. Get into this next box. So I've got a heavy-duty outdoor rated cable, nice dust caps on the end, and you can see there's a plug down inside there. And you can see there's a plug on this end as well. And you can see I've got another heavy-duty outdoor rated cable with one of those unique proprietary plugs on this end, and then a standard 120 volt plug on this end. And then I've got a quantity of 2 of each of the different kinds of paralleling MC4 adapters. So we've got some documentation here, another antenna, and then this appears to be a micro-inverter. You see the MC4 connectors there, and then the proprietary connectors on either end to utilize that power. There's your port to hook up the antenna to. There appears to be some kind of built-in antenna or something here on the end. In the box we've got kind of a short stubby antenna, and then we've got some mounting hardware. This is the back side of the microinverter. You can see this is labeled as PV input. This says antenna. This here is the AC output, and then over here we've got our AC input. This is the heady model. Notice the UL listing. Okay, so the MPPT DC input range is 30 to 60 volts, rated up to 20 amps. Range of operating DC input voltage is 22 to 60 volts. Range of operating DC input current is 0 amps to 18 amps. And then max DC current / voltage / watts. 18 amps at 60 volts, 350 watts. So this is a 350 watt microinverter. The AC output is good for 80 volts up to 265 volts, and it can do 59 hertz, 60 hertz, or 60.5 hertz. Power factor 0.99. Max continuous output current 3.3 amps. That's AC output. AC max output power 350 watts. It is rated for up to 5 of these microinverters in parallel to each other, and it's got a waterproof IP65 resistance, and its operating ambient temperature is good from 20 degrees Celsius up to 50 degrees Celsius. So I've got a quantity of 2 of these 350 watt microinverter kits. Let's unbox the pallet next. So both of these long boxes are the same. They appear to be stands for the solar panel. So each one of these boxes has 2, as you can see over here, of individually wrapped pieces. And these are the solar panels. Can't wait to see these. Semi-flexible and bifacial. Yeah, buddy, here's our first glimpse at it, and here's one of the panels. This has got to be one of the coolest solar panels I've ever seen. And these guys engineered it themselves. You can tell that it's not, just a copycat rebranded deal that they've just slapped their name on. If I wiggle it, you can see it is, as they say, semi-flexible, which is awesome. But yet, contrary to how normal flexible panels are, this one actually has a metal frame, very skinny metal frame going around the edge, which is very, very cool. Most of the time you see on a flexible panel the plasticky stuff just coming over to the edge, and then they'll have like some grommets or something. But the holes here, you can see that they're actually probably laser cut out of the metal. Then the cells do appear to be potentially half-cut cells. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bus bars going through each cell. Now the front surface does kind of have this textured bumpy finish to it. And then on the back side, it's got kind of a smooth, slightly opaque finish to it as well. And obviously we've got some MC4 leads. I know they've designed these to work for a long time and be out in the elements and stuff. It will be interesting to see how they hold up over time compared to, say, a glass standard panel. So we're going to be hooking these up and performing very long-term tests. I'm going to make a whole bunch of videos here at the beginning, kind of showing you how to set this all up, and then we're going to let it run, and we're going to see what kind of impact it can make to the power bill, as well as just see how it holds up with the elements and stuff. So we do have a little tag right here. The writing is very small. Hopefully you can maybe see it. The max power from the front, it's rated to 200 watts. It'll be classified as a 200 watt solar panel. It's rated to receive a max power on the back of 170 watts. Now we'll probably never see that without, turning it over and facing the back directly to the sun. But maybe when we get some snow or something, we'll get some good reflection. This says max power voltage, 36.48 volts. The max open circuit voltage is 42.88, so that's the VOC. The max power current, 5.49 amps. It's rated for a 23.5% efficiency. Its protective is a ETFE coating. The panel itself can work in a system up to 1,000 volts DC. Don't build a system with that high of voltage. That sounds scary. The dimensions are in millimeters here, so 1,170 by 923 by 3.8. And the weight is 4.2 kilograms. Good for negative 40 degrees Celsius all the way up to 80 degrees Celsius. Now Craftstrom has its roots in Europe, so that probably explains a little bit of the metric system. But for those of us in the United States that want to know, basically exactly 47.25 inches long and about 36 1/16 wide. Let's assemble the solar stands. So each stand is going to consist of 2 long pieces with little rubber ends, and then 2 slightly shorter pieces with the rubber ends. That's important. 1 kind of medium length piece, 2 of those shorter pieces, and then 2 of those really short pieces. And then you're going to get 3 baggies. The bag with the most parts in it and the shortest screws will be used to assemble these components. The bag with the 4 medium length screws and nuts will be to mount the solar panel to the stand, and then just the baggie with the 2 long bolts, 2 washers, and 2 nuts is used to mount the micro-inverter to the stand. Now, very important to note, the long pieces are what the solar panels mount to. So they're going to be the top bars, and then the other slightly shorter ones are going to be used for the bottom. Give you step-by-step instructions on building this. There are a few tricks and tips that will make this substantially easier for you that I'll share. Okay, so for the first tip, I'd recommend definitely dumping these out, but be sure you're on a surface that you do not lose them on. Next tip is I highly recommend a drill, but one that you can dial back the torque on. You don't want to really crank down on these, but a drill is going to make it a lot easier than a screwdriver. But a Phillips head screwdriver will work just fine as well. And we're going to start with the bottom. Okay, so notice that it's an L-shaped piece of metal. So we want the outside to be the outside of the solar panel. So there's one, and then notice that I've got to turn this one over so that it is going to sit like that. Can you see how they're both oriented with it facing outside? That's just going to give you a cleaner look in the end here. This end piece is going to go on the top like this at an angle. So we're just going to gonna line that up like so and like so. So our first screw is gonna go in right here on the end where there's no rubber feet. It doesn't really matter which way you put the screw in, but I like the Phillips head facing to the outside just because it's easier to get my drill into. Go ahead and put that screw in right there. Then on the inside here, we'll just start threading this by hand. Now what's super sweet is I can just hold that with my finger, take my drill, and just kind of snug it up. I need to not have it be super tight yet because I need to still be able to manipulate this. So we'll just repeat that on this side. Okay, just like that. So now we've got two pieces that will articulate at an angle. Okay, next pieces we're gonna use are these two kind of medium length units. What they allow you to do is brace the panel at whatever angle you would ideally like. So you can decide your angle and position them however you want. You could get scientific and you know, get an angle finder and calculate exactly, you know, where you want it. You could adjust it during the year, or you know, pick a happy medium spot. However, with that said, if you look in the instructions, it shows these units kind of going on the second to last hole, which makes sense because that's going to give you kind of the shallowest incline, but it's still a pretty good angle, and it's going to give you the most strength because you don't have as much leverage on the back here. So that's where we're going to put this member. So this is the outside, this is the inside. So I'm going to put the screw head facing outside, and the nut I'm going to put on the inside, and then we'll simply cinch it down a little bit. Again, not super tight yet. I'm going to repeat the process for the bottom hole here. So again, second in from the outside. So there you can kind of see it's starting to kind of turn into this like pie wedge shape. So let me repeat that on the other one quick. Next, we're going to use these braces, and they really only fit one spot. So you just kind of get them in there until they line up with holes top and bottom. And once again, if you want to be precise, don't forget which side is outside and which side is inside. So that way you can screw the screws in the appropriate direction. And by the way, I do not need to have any kind of wrench or anything to hold this nut. I can just hold it with my fingers and it will tighten up with the drill. So let me go ahead and do the second one here. Okay, so now that we have all the bracing in place, we can go ahead and go through and just tighten all the screws. Again, don't cinch down, but just snug them up. If you look, it's gonna be hard to see on the camera, but there's the slightly shorter piece with the rubber end, and then the longer piece is up on the top. Be sure and have that right. Do not do it upside down, otherwise the solar panel is not going to fit. Okay, so make sure that the long piece with the rubber end is on the top. Next, we're going to take this piece, and this kind of braces them side to side. It also provides a mounting point for the microinverter. However, be sure, once again, it's kind of this L-shaped piece. Be sure and mount it such that there are holes here on the flat surface that the microinverter can mount to. Do not hook it up like this, because I don't know if you can see, but there's a lip right here, right? See, it's nice and smooth and flat there. Turn it like this, there's a big hunk of metal in the way. So be sure and attach it like this. And there's no particular specification for where this should go. It should just be far enough in from the back that the solar panel is somewhat protecting the microinverter, but you also need, you know, access to it. So I would probably come down probably like 8 holes from the top. So if you count down to 8, that's probably where I would recommend you put it. And then we'll go ahead and attach the screw. Again, the screw goes on the outside if you want it to look the nicest. And we're not going to cinch down crazy tight on this, but enough to keep it in place. And once again, make sure you're attaching it to the long part, otherwise your solar panel is not going to fit. Not the end of the world, but trying to save you guys some extra work. From this angle, you can probably see the longer one is on the top still, on both sides. That's the way we want it. And you can see that there's a flat surface here to mount the inverter to. Okay, next you're going to take the baggie of 2 long screws, a nut, and a little washer. Pick a hole towards the middle of the horizontal bar here, And you can see that I've already started one of the screws here. The washer goes on the back side right here. And what this allows us to do is hang this inverter, and we can also see the hole that we need to thread the next one into that way. That's where our next attachment goes. So we're going to just kind of start that once again, and then we should be able to hang the inverter right there, and we'll just tighten them down. Pro tip when mounting the solar panel to the rack with the microinverter. Take note of the direction that the MC4 cables are coming out of the microinverter, and then make sure that you put your solar panel on the rack so that the cables are coming out the same side as the ones coming out of the microinverter. That will make connecting them up significantly easier, and then when you have the second one, which I'll show you here in a minute, that does not get the microinverter mounted to it, put the MC4 cables on the other side so that they're all close to being able to plug into the microinverter. Okay, so the solar panel mounts horizontally. As I said before, take note and make sure that your cables are coming out on the correct end. Otherwise, you're going to have to take the solar panel off and redo it. So think about that ahead of time. And then notice that the solar panel has these elongated holes. Those are what we're going to use to mount it. And we're using the baggie of 4 of the medium screws and nuts. It says before, dump the hardware out in a place that they won't get lost, but are easy to grab. And then this is obviously the top, so we're going to work from the top down to the bottom, just because then gravity isn't working against us as much. So simply line up this top hole right here with the hole in the solar panel. Once again, I'm going to put the screw head facing the top here. I just think that's cleaner. The nut will go underneath, and snug it up so that it will hold it, but be sure and leave it loose enough that the panel can move. See how it's moving side to side and up and down? Because we got to get it dialed in on the other sides. And then on the bottom, the solar panel hole aligns with the bottom hole in the metal. And you'll quickly find out if you didn't put the long metal piece on the top, like I keep telling you at this point, because the panel will be off the metal clear down here. So if you've done it right, your hole will line up with the bottom hole of the metal. Now we can go ahead and cinch the screws down. Again, not ridiculously tight, but secure enough that no wind or something will move it. The solar panel is mounted. We've got the cables coming off on the side common with the inverter. Now we've just got to mount these paralleling adapters. So it goes 2 to 1. So we're going to take this single end, and that's going to go into the inverter right here. Push until it clicks. Then we've got the other one, 2 to 1. Again, push to click. I just say tuck these behind the support piece here. And we're going to plug the one panel here into one of the ports, like that. And then the other one, and plug into another one of the ports. Notice immediately a red LED light shows up here in the little window in the antenna here. And that's probably meaning that it's receiving solar power, but it's not connected to anything yet, which is fine because we're not ready yet to fire this all up. Okay, next we need to take this little megahertz antenna, and there's a little threaded port right here on the side of the microinverter, and we're going to come and thread that on. Hand tight is good. The base of this antenna right here is magnetic. See how it sticks to the metal? In the instructions, it shows putting the antenna up on the top right here. The only problem is the tolerance between the solar panel and this little rubberized leg is such that the antenna doesn't stick very good there. Certainly you could pull this off, but I kind of like the protection that gives. So anyway, for starters, what I'm going to try, so happens that it sticks really, really well right there, horizontally, and it's somewhat protected by the panel. I'm going to try that. You'll find out later on if that was a bad move or not. Okay, we got a complete set of these built. And if we come back here, you can see the one with the microinverter, and then the other one that does not. Notice that the MC4 PV wires are matching up to the same side. So now we simply take our paralleling cable that still has empty slots, and we're going to plug in the next panel. So these two are complete. Let me build 2 more, and we'll hook them all up together. All right, there's all 800 glorious watts. Look how good and sleek that looks. That is very, very custom and nice. Now, one thing you could consider, the front slope, they're pretty wind tolerant. But the back, a strong wind gust could easily blow these away. So you could certainly do some ground screws or ground stakes. Just send them through, one of these holes on the member that's down on the ground, and that would definitely secure these panels so they do not blow away. These kits are meant to be basically semi-permanent fixtures to your home, but if you needed to disconnect them for whatever reason, I would highly recommend getting an MC4 disconnect tool. They're dirt cheap and they make disconnecting MC4 cables significantly easier. I'll leave a link for these tools down in the description so you can find them easily. On the back side here, you can see 2 inverters. So we need to daisy chain those together now. So you simply get the trunk cable, and you can see it's running behind the legs right here. And the nice thing about these plugs is they only go in one way. There we go, that's connected. And then that cable runs down here and plugs into this one. So then on this one's AC output, we're gonna connect this cord that has the plug in. And again, it's basically impossible to screw this up because the plugs only plug in one direction. Okay, with that done, we are ready to plug in and start adding everything to the app. On that note, I got a little too excited, and I'm actually going to need to disconnect that inverter from both the solar panels as well as the AC trunk cable, because you can only add these inverters one at a time, and they need to be powered on individually. Once you get the adding process done in the app, then you're good to go. To start, we got to boot them up individually one at a time. The rest of the setup and app configuration stuff is going to be coming in another video, because this video is already long enough. So be sure and subscribe so you don't miss that part. And then when you get to see this all up and running and see what kind of power it produces, there's going to be a link in the description to a playlist that is everything Craftstrom Solar related. So that way you can easily find what you're looking for and be able to easily watch all the videos about this system. Please do the 4 free things that help the channel out. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Don't forget that links for Craftstrom are down in the description, so be sure and check that out further. Really fantastic company. You guys will really enjoy working with them. All right, we'll catch you all next time.